Welcome to the Curiosity Solution. I'm your host, Beverly Beal. Join us as we explore the science of curiosity, share stories of people who've used curiosity to improve their lives, and maybe inspire some aha moments along the way. Welcome to the Curiosity Solution. Today, my guest is Ruoyun Killian. She and I met. Oh gosh, yes, it's been 10 years ago or about 10 years ago. We were both members at a co-working space in Austin, Texas, called Orange Co-working, which is actually what has kind of inspired this podcast because, everybody's in Orange. We're all looking for rhymes. We want to find people that we can connect with. But what we end up finding is other members of our fruit salad.
Well, I think it's what's nice is that it just we all seek to have other people's of our fruit salad, but just realize that everyone's just fruit, and that's okay.
It's fruit, and we make it is the diversity that makes it the best.
Yeah, the most unique flavor. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to bring Ruoyun on is because of her diverse background. She is a human-centered marketing and business advisor. She has been a business owner herself for the past 10 years. I guess I didn't realize you were just starting your business when we first met.
I was 23 and just starting the business. I was a baby when I started my agency. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start then on that. What was it that inspired you to go into marketing and specifically human-centered marketing?
Okay, so the blunt answer is when I first started into marketing, and what got me into it was I had an epiphany in high school as the decisions that you make when you're 16 and don't have frontal lobe development. You're having to figure out your life choice it's always interesting when you think of that in hindsight. But I realized that all of my previous dreams and narratives that have been told to me to be a doctor or to be a lawyer or anything is not feasible based on the stress levels and what I previously went through as a youth in depression. And I was like, I don't need to live up to other people's expectations to live a life. I'd rather to live a life that I wanted to live. And at that time I looked around and I was like, what am I nerding about? I was young. It was a height of K-pop was starting to go off in the world. And I distinctly watched this. It was a TV show in Korea that had a few major actors be interns in the marketing department at Samsung, and they promoted this cell phone that they launched. And this is product placement embedded in entertainment culture. That is the height of inception. And so I was like, how does that work? What does that do? And so that's what got me into marketing. And to the longest time when I go and speak at universities, they're like, what got you into it? And I was like, well, the eloquent language is I really wanted to see how marketing impresses and plants the seed for standards in society. The short answer is I wanted to figure out how marketing hacked people's brains because I realized how inceptive everything was. It was so subtle. Everything that you have decided as a society standard was probably at one point a marketing ad. And so it was like, what is that? How do we become aware of that? And so we control the narrative. So that was what got me into marketing. And then when I started, it was a start. I jokingly say I am a social media grandma because I started before Facebook business pages even existed, before Google My Business even existed. So I started at the early days and I literally watched everything come to take flight in it. And when I started my agency, my job description didn't exist as a digital marketer. There were SEO companies that said they did social media, but really didn't know what the heck they were doing and charging a pittance for it, which was not fun when it came to profit margins as agencies. And then you had really great branding agencies that charged an arm and a leg, or most people looked around the room and said, you're a millennial, you should know how to do social media, right? That narrative really hasn't changed as much if you go for small businesses. So I was like, how do we set standards in the wild, wild west of social media so that I don't deal constantly with traumatized business owners coming to me who's like, I hate social media. And I'm like, and it's funny because it's like, that was 10 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, if you hated social media 10 years ago, I can't even imagine how you feel about social media today in that space. And that's how I got started. I went in with the expectation of like wanting to set standards in marketing and social media marketing because I knew the power of that inception of marketing. And I was like, we need to be able to take ownership of it. Otherwise, it derails it. And the next generation is going to be like the people that live in Wall-E. So, which is a lot of the arguments that people have around AI right now. And social media was kind of the first technology that like really started making that question of like, we are the stewards and hosts, and we decide what should be decided as a standard. And what's the most powerful thing of social media is that it's not behind a hidden wall of 1950s Mad Men's worlds of high corporate telling you what to do, which is like, if you think of the height of the early 2000s, Josie and the Pussycat Dolls put that front and center, asking the question of like of product placement, inception of marketing at that point, right? So like, but social media made it to where you and I, as the average human, have access, if we could do good storytelling, to go viral to the world and build a platform.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that it wasn't really originated with, the K-pop. So, you were not around yet with, for ET and Skittles. That
I
trust
mean,
me.
I remember ET and Skittles. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So
yeah,
maybe but
yeah.
no, but you're right. I've actually done some of the influencer things. There's the stack influence where hey, we'll pay for this product if you do a video and
Mhm,
give
mhm.
your reaction to it. And I've actually done some very negative reactions to some things that were just awful.
Yeah.
I still paid for refund or it paid me for the purchase. So but everybody has that ability to humanize marketing. We are humans. We naturally market. We share with what it is that we like. That word of
Right.
mouth marketing, I think, is the most
Right.
human version of it, even if it's
Well,
not always necessarily accurate.
right. So I put this as a huge emphasis because people really try to rationalize the human experience. And the cool thing about what I do in marketing in today's era is I have the ability of analytics to actually give you data to back it up. Because up until this point, marketing is always the first to be caught in comes to budget world because there's hard to correlate. And I was like, I have data that could correlate, and I have data that backs the human experience, like to give you language because people want to rationalize and others rationalize. But the context of this numbers that we are analyzing is that at the core of business that has been there since the dawn of time when people were switching goods versus money is that people do business with people, not businesses. And
Mhm.
marketing is just the way we communicate to it, right? Marketing isn't this fancy schmancy thing. It's literally this conversation. I have this conversation that builds trust, and therefore I want to do business with you. That's it.
Yep. I was looking through some of your past LinkedIn posts, and you had one in particular that I think more people need to pay attention to, and that is don't market to please the CEO, market
Mhm,
to please or to reach the actual buyers, the actual
mhm,
customers.
mhm.
Um, and for someone as a solopreneur, sometimes I have to remind myself that okay, I might be having fun talking about all the cool things that I know, but I
Yeah.
have to remember, well, people don't care. They want to know the results. So that is something I try to personally remind myself. But I'm talking more in the, again, with what your business is and how you're approaching it, because you really talk more about scaling and businesses that are
Mhm.
able to scale up. Um, and again, when you are dealing with marketing, that is going to be something that's going to allow you to reach more people in order to scale.
Right.
Um,
So it's so funny that you say that, of like, you're not talking to the CEO, you're talking to the person. So it's a and you talk about scale. So the same problem at a solopreneur level expands at a scale level. And here's
mhm,
the reason why, is that most entrepreneurs, here's the thing that have the biggest problem of scale is when you take the entrepreneur out, because even when you nerd as a solopreneur, or as the is at the smaller stage, your passion, your charisma, your vibe, that's what we literally mean by vibe. Like, for when young ones say vibe, that's what we mean. It's the way you exude your essence, your being, your alignment, right? That is what draws people in to purchase, right? Like, when we say, I talk to you, I trust you, I buy from you, right? Like me, buy from, like me, know me, buy from me. Those are the three sales pitches that we say to this day, right? And so what happens at scale is they over rationalize and they take the passion out. Because as they take the business owner out, the brand that is exuded isn't connected anymore from it. And that's what
yeah.
happens. And it's twofold. It's people forgetting to realize that brands, even big personal brands, like think Mr. Beast, YouTuber, it is his personal brand, but he has a whole team behind him. When they scale, what they fail to realize is that a business is a child, or a plant, if you don't want to think of it as a baby form, but it's its own individual being, and it functions separate from the business owner, who is the parent. And then everybody else is aunties and uncles supporting this baby as it grows, quite literally. And so
Mhm,
it acts, walks, and talks like its own individual human. But when they scale, they over rationalize it. They put a lot of fancy words around it and do all these things. And then they forget that. And then they lose touch. And then that moment of like, people just care about results. It's like, it's not that people care about results. People care about understanding who you are, in the essence of who you are. And when brands scale and they lose touch of themselves, even at big levels, like Nike, who's been around forever, they lost out of touch of who they are when they brought on a CEO that was so focused on profit margins that they like lost number one. And they just brought in a guy that went from the bottom to the top of Nike. And we're now starting to see the powerful storytelling that made Nike like the just do it meme that
mhm,
became a cultural anthem. They're reigniting that because they're in alignment to themselves. So everything is about that, right? Like,
mhm.
the CEO, when I see solopreneur CEOs that like lose themselves because they get lost in their nerdiness, that's not true. It's really more about like they over explain their nerdiness, and then people don't know the essence of it. But I have had multiple content scenarios, like we've had clients where like they're so nerdy and that personal interaction, and I was like, all right, let's just film that. You walk into the store and I'm going to ask you like a customer, and then you just answer the questions and you educate, and that's it. And those get tons of views because people want to be educated, they want to know, and they want to have that human touch experience. And all we did is we packaged it in a video format that can be distributed at scale for more people to experience it so that they come into the store. So it's all about reframing the packaging for that human experience.
I really like how you just explained that. That actually just is, first of all, from a personal note, gave me a whole bunch of ideas of what I can be doing and what I had been doing. Life
Mhm.
kind of gets in the way every now and then, and things get interrupted. And so your flow gets interrupted, and then trying to get back into the swing of things can be a little bit challenging. I mean, and you can speak to this too, because there's a great deal of curiosity around um, you know, having that whole reinvention and not I guess recalibration process.
Mhm.
When you recently had a baby,
Yeah. Yes, I did.
and
Yes.
so there's always that time that you need to take in order
Mhm.
to nurture that baby. I mean, you just spoke about your business being like a child. I speak about businesses having their own personalities and making sure that you're honoring that individual, as in the business, what their
Mhm.
goals and dreams and desires
Mhm.
are. Sometimes they don't mesh with what you are wanting, and you have to then decide, am I the right person to nurture this, or do we need to find a different way of making this happen? You
Yeah.
have a living, breathing child.
Yeah.
How are they getting along, as in your business, the business child and your real child?
So the easiest example that I could give is imagine a newborn baby with a 10-year-old sibling. Like, right, the 10-year-old is
Ah.
functional. It's like super self-efficient. It's figuring out its own vein. It's doing its own thing, right? Like I don't have like we talk in parenthood, the life of it, and it's very and to put it to entrepreneurism as an example. So when they start newborns, you are locked. And if you're a female, you are locked at the boob the whole entire time, every 2 hours, right? Like that, you're there for like 6 months to 2 years, right? Like that's like where you're at, right? Like if you have the ability to do that, because it is not easy. So if you are privileged enough to be able to get that ability to do it longer, bless your heart, go for it, right? But like that's the level of it. And until they become a full functioning toddler, you're with them at the hip, right? Like 24/7 all day long. And that's think of really that first year of running your business, you're dedicating 80 hours, right?
Mhm,
Easy,
mhm.
easy, 80 hours, 100 hours. And then you have toddlers, right? Where they're like, they have an identity, but they haven't quite fully expressed that identity because they don't have words, right? Like they're just doing it. And all you're doing is creating systems and structures, boundaries, safe little boundaries, right? You're the emotional bumpers. Your role is safety. Their role is exploring that safety zone, right? Now,
Mhm.
this is where we see businesses fail because most businesses fail within the first 2 to 3 years because of how much of the safety zone they allow. Micromanagers break down because they burn out. But those that have learned to be an individual being that feels themselves, not just like get 24 hours off during Mother's Day or Father's Day or whatever, right? Like they get to be fuel themselves while their child gets to run around and self-play. That's your age stage 2 to 3 as toddler down. And then you go from 5 to 8 where you are still the leader. You are still the leader. They believe in you and they follow you, right? And you're still leading the charge, but they're growing, they're building. So that's like where we call fast scale, right? And then when you start hitting 10 into preteen years is when you are and going into teenage years, the big shift happens where you are letting go to be the guide at that space. So at year 10 as a business baby, it's a functioning individual brand and being who is discovering its identity and its maturity as we go is where I see my business. And then while I have a little toddler where I am like, all right, I set up the zones. Now go play, go explore, go do. I set boundaries like you're super tall, figure out your height, don't go under tables, even though your friends can go under tables, right? Like she goes under and then she bumps her head and she's super pissed off. And then she's trying to get out from under the playground. And then she's like about to hit her. And I'm like, hold on, hit, head, head. And she's like, oh, right. And she just like scoops out for it, right? Like we've established this very early on because she would like hit her head against the dining table
That's
because of that height, right? But other than that, I let her go. I'm just like, know your height, know your boundaries, right? know the
Which is
things.
difficult.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is
Yeah.
difficult for toddlers, especially as they're going through growth spurts, because they might have
Yeah.
been just fine going under that table day one, on one
Yeah.
day, and the next day they're a half inch taller, and suddenly everything has to
Oh
get
yeah.
recalibrated.
Yeah. So it's like they get frustrated as they're like learning. Like, so she's like, my child is very much the like manifesting generator that she is, where she's like a step above, but she also looks at the next age. Like that, we played with a child that's like exactly a year older than her, and she's like, "That's my future. I'm gonna follow you around and learn all the things." And I'm like, and so now I have to put in language of like, "Nope, you're not at that level yet. Hold on, you got a year before you hit that." And I do a lot of not yets, right? Where it's
Mm.
like the safety zone of like, we're not yet there. And I think from a business, though, we forget that. We see success of people at age 5, age 6, age 10 of business, or we see our fellow counterparts who may be manifesting really quickly and we feel imposter syndrome. And then we say, but we forget to tell ourselves not yet.
Oh, wow. That's a great point. You said manifesting generator, and I
Mhm.
understand that's a human design term,
Yes.
which is another study that
Yeah.
combines astrology, the Kabbalah, I Ching. Trying to think what other.
Yeah, in the most of all the in the scale of personality tests, I say Myers-Briggs is the entry gateway drug, and then human design is the most woo woo woo, and then we have all the other personality tests in the middle in between.
Have you ever given your business the put the business's information, the birth chart information into the human design um,
N- No,
formula?
my business is just like it's a the better example to explain is like if humans are like plants, businesses are also plants because businesses I had a coach explain this to me. He once, and I love it. Um Businesses are integrally human because they are built of multiple humans. It's a living organism filled with a variety of different human beings, and they come in and out as they go. Um and so, if we really need to point out, if humans are like plants, a business is like a very mature garden, is the
Okay.
best way to, like, if you're starting a garden and thinking to it and letting it grow. But the intention about all of that is to, like, when we're talking about business, is that just like how humans are plants, your role is to be a gardener. You set them up for success. That's your role. As a business owner, your role is to do that, and also owner that you yourself is a human. Like, so how are you building your environment to filter you for success, right?
Yeah. Now that you have a child of your own, I'm sure it's given you an opportunity to reflect on curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and not only how you're approaching your business, but just how you are observing curiosity showing up in front of you on that toddler level versus how you felt like it was honored or approached when you were small. What is the
Mm-hmm.
difference that you're seeing in how you were raised,
Mm-hmm.
and how it shows up now as a parent?
All right, so let me give you some context, right? Because we're going deep into human psychology a little bit. So this is how I like to start in is that humans are born fully innate and aligned to who they are. And it is society that strips it away, and it starts as early as the nuclear family,
Mm,
because we are told of what we should do versus what we're actually meant and want to do. We all, if you look at every child, especially at the age 2 to 3 and younger zone, they actually have they know exactly what they want at that point and where it is. They may be incredibly emotionally dysregulated because their brains haven't built that regulation level yet, or any of this, but they fully understand like this is my plan. I got the assignment from the universe. This is what I'm here for. This is what I do. Let me achieve it, right? And then through their life, they build their life of expression in alignment to themselves, right? And we tapped on this a little bit earlier about realigning constantly in business, and when businesses lose the plot, they need to realign to themselves, right? And the same thing applies for human beings. And it starts as early as age 2 to 3 because parents hear generational narratives and they pass that on. Right. I remember when you and I got my dog, and I swear to God, puppies are like the best example of a test for couples of what they would be in the future as parents, because a puppy is very much a 2-year-old. Like my 2-year-old is like equal to our dog right now, and I was like, yeah, same vibe. Same. My dog has his old man tendencies kicking in right now because he's 8. But I remember you talking to me. It's like, it's crazy how we emulate our parents. Our parents come out when we have kids or dogs. And you said that to me, and it like shook me because I was like, no way in hell do I want to be my parents. Oh no, no. We are breaking that generational narrative right now, right? You hear a lot of language around generational trauma breaking, cycle breaking, narrative breaking. And so I basically spent 5 years prior to giving birth in therapy with the pure focus of, I went through the deepest level of stripping in my childhood to the point to at 16 years of age, I was so misaligned and lost myself to the point to where I didn't want to exist anymore. And the only reason why I chose to exist is because I visualized my own funeral and realized that no one's going to fight for me. No one's going to do anything for me. I need to do it for me. All they have is regret, like, oh, she was so young. And I'm like, what the heck? What do you mean she was so young? Right? It's really sad because, like, as a mom, right, I'm like, no, her parents should be like really like being able to help with that, right? I didn't luck out with having parents that do that. I was a parentified child. And so like that's the stripping. And so for me, it's like, before I embark on this journey of parenthood, because it is a commitment, it is like we submit the scope of work to the universe. The universe has approved. Now we're in the scope of work. That's literally what my husband and I language is as we build our structure in this new chapter of life. Right. So like that's our joke. And so it's like, okay, before we take on the intention of this project, because it is a project, you're here with them, you are with them for life, but your roles shift throughout their experience with you, right? And so it's like, how do I create what is the adults that I want to have grown? And how do we build the environment to let them grow in that space? And so, and to where, most importantly, where are the trigger points that I have in my generational trauma and narratives that I do not want to instill or pass on to my child? So that was like the big critical thinking questions that we had going into it. And it's as like simple as like, me worrying about if she's eating her food. Now, she is a great eater. We do not have the 15 to 18 month zone living on a banana over a weekend and living on air. She's not that. And every single time she gets sick, she loses her appetite and it puts me in a frenzy, right? Like I got all my anxiety, but I'm like, I just say, nope, we set her up. We let her ride. I walk away. We let her eat. And then she'll show me in her very slow time, because she's a toddler, she's still figuring out things, why she likes it and why she does it on certain foods. And then we figure out our safe zones and then go forward. Am I nervous 100% of the time? Yes. Because I'm like,
and that never goes away.
Yeah.
That never goes away.
As she has more opinions right now, like she's like, I want tortillas. We're not at the like, I want tortillas only, because I'm like, okay, well, we have this. And then we introduce tortillas because you requested tortillas earlier. Right. And that's going to metamorphosize to like, as she gets older, where I'm like, all right, our options on the menu for this week is XYZ. What would you like first? And go from there. And like letting her voice her opinions as we go grocery shopping and stuff. Right. So like we could do that in those spaces that make dinner time a little bit easier. And if I get I can eat whatever, there are still generational narratives that I'll still say, which is like, I can't cook whatever. Like I used to have that because that's like an age old saying, right? So, but it's stuff like that where it's like as minimal as that, but then also like setting up expectations with like older generations of where she's going to go or what she's going to do. Um yeah, so it's very, and like the culturals, because we have like one side of the family that is American and white, and then the other side that is fully Asian. So like having to teach her how to balance that, and that,
Yeah.
and very specifically that she is not like the inability to at that skin level potentially fit in 100% in those categories and what that means, right? Like we're going to have those tough conversations and going through that. So there's a lot that has to do that, but like the defining compass is how do we give her resilience to remain, to know how to realign to themselves, because that's all I could teach.
Right. Right.
Right? I mean,
No.
I'm not gonna be there forever. We never
No.
know where life is gonna hit us, right? So
That
what
is
can I
very true.
impart and teach? Yeah.
Are you first generation or were you
First
born
gen.
in you are? Okay.
Mhm.
That has a yeah, that certainly has its own set of learning opportunities. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Challenges, right? Yeah.
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 My mom was first generation with her mom's side, but her mom passed away just 3 years after she was born, so she didn't even really have that kind of. There was a lot of things that didn't knowingly get passed on, but I do believe, I personally am a big believer in this, that these generational traits have been embedded in our DNA, and
Mhm.
certain situations will activate different expressions of that. Technically, it's not necessarily epigenetics. My daughter, who is the scientist veterinarian, will correct me on the proper scientific usage of that. However, I still know that when I get into certain situations, habitual patterns will just come right out, and it takes
Mhm.
so much to stop that. I
Mhm.
was not as forward thinking as you were. I thought I was doing better, but you get into a situation and suddenly the groove is strong, and
Yeah.
you've done a great job of addressing the groove. And I think that again ties back in even with marketing. People are the groove is, well, this is what we have to do. Even if you're trying to do social media, it's like, well, this is what we have to do. When you kind of get that panicky feeling, like I haven't sent anything out. Oh my gosh, I got to just get on and show my face. Well, is there a reason?
Yeah,
Again,
there's definitely like a knee-jerk reason to like be part of the conversation for sure. Like I've been not posting. I think the last time I posted was about K-pop Demon Hunters on YouTube, because I was like, we have to talk about this cultural moment. We have to talk about the timing and why it went viral, right? Like in the biggest, greatest shakeout of society overall, like just geopolitically, no matter where you stand on politics, it is the greatest shakeout in the whole entire since World War II. Just putting that out there. It is the
yeah.
greatest shakeout since World War II, right? So, um, and it is a huge shakeout because, and it started in 2020 when people were forced to recognize if the old traditional ways of thinking matters. If you don't exist in the next 72 hours, does the linear pathway of life where you get a home, get a house, get money, get etc., like have kids, like does that even matter? Right? Is that
Mhm.
all that is worth of your life? Or is it how you impart and instill and build into community? And that's and that's what you want to impart if you don't exist in 72 hours, right? Like, what is that alignment, right? So we were forced into that. And so it's 5 years of change. It's 5 years, 6 years of change. And now we're hitting into the activation, because in 2020, the biggest amount of change of people woke up, right? They became woke, and it's not a political term. It's they become aware of that point of what truly matters
Mhm.
in my narrative of success, or just feeling like my life meant something, right?
Right.
And that's the question. And they spent 5 years shifting from a stage of becoming where I'm like, great, welcome to the real game of life. Video game, character build, you're going on quests and side quests. Everyone's quest is different. Everyone's achievements of those quests are different, right? Like that's welcome to life. Now have fun exploring. And they shift into what we call change seekers, where they believe that change is possible, but they're not in charge of making the change, right? So it's a lot of call outs for people that they believe have the power to make change, but they don't do it. So that's all you've been hearing the last 5 years is a lot of people calling it out, right? But not a lot of activation. 2026 is the activation from change seekers to change makers, where they believe they have the power to make change, big or small. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't need to be a political leader. You can make change at the grassroots, right? So that's the biggest change that is happening right now. That is happening. And it is very easy for me to be like, oh, I need to be online and talk about it. But I like literally took last year. I was like, I got a baby. I got other priorities right now. And it is not my time. People need the shakeout to happen so that they have a space to realign, right? So I didn't post at all, really, except in very key strategic times, like talking about K-pop Demon Hunters, because the reason why it went viral is because the narrative of no more no more hiding, no more fighting, I'm just going to shine the way that I'm born to be is built into the lyrics, right? And her owning that it's okay to be an imperfect human. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? So all the narratives that start the activation of change makers is built into that movie. That's why it hit the chords. And so that's why I was like,
going through my head now because
yeah,
no,
it's that powerful. Yeah.
it
Golden
is.
is a very powerful song. Yeah.
During the holidays, made my son and he's 31, and so it's like, no, we're watching this together, and,
Yeah.
and I will continue to watch it. I understand now why my friends who have children, boys and girls, why they are just sick to death of it, because the songs are they're the wonderful earworms, and I appreciate that. I grew, our kids grew up watching the animated version of Hercules. So, there's always going to be those things, but this one has such a bigger societal message. And I was really happy to see that you were doing a little bit of a deeper dive on that, especially considering that, you are Korean.
Well, I'm part Korean, mostly Chinese, but
I think you were
Asian. It is
Korean.
no, I'm part Chinese. I'm part Korean, mostly Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it not because of the Asian representation, but because of the messaging
Yeah.
and how it went viral on a like K-pop Demon Hunters became the powerhouse that it is. All the awards got won. Because of the fans. Like, and it's not just the fans that are Asian. It took over the world. Like every single country, it went viral. I want to say there was like probably a third left that didn't go viral.
Well, and I think the areas that it didn't go viral in probably don't have access to movies.
Netflix. Yeah, or to
Netflix,
Netflix specifically.
yeah.
Yeah, like it went on Netflix and Netflix brought it to theaters. Like that is how much demand it was. They brought it to theaters because
Wow.
people paid extra money to go in and sing to it. Like the community behind K-pop Demon Hunters is insane. Yeah, but like, I mean, I could nerd about K-pop Demon Hunters and the power behind it all day long, but like that was the only time I felt the need to really like push to do content last year, because the rest of the time I was like, it's the big shakeout. Literally, politics is taking center stage and shifting the algorithm every 24 hours days at a time, or like every 48 hours, because people were like meeting their great Phoenix Rising experience, really. Like they're hitting their like big realignment stage, where it's like, if you don't have the big distractor of social media that is there to consume you and distract you into the shoulds, where are you finding space to breathe, to listen to the voice within, right? Like more people left social media in this past year because of overwhelm. And I was like, during the great shakeout, most people didn't want to post. Most people didn't want to do all the different things, right? Which is great because because they were like, I'm annoyed by oversaturation of content. And so that also meant like the actual true human-centered content ended up going more viral. So like great, we're seeing the shakeout of like the top content voices as well in that space. But people left and it gave them a chance to breathe. Like if you're not constantly on social media keeping up with the Joneses, you have a chance to define your own narrative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that again goes along with some of the things that I have been focusing on in my business. I've started teaching my energy hygiene classes again, where I help people understand how to disconnect from that overwhelm, from all of the news, from the people that are contacting you saying, I'm freaking out about this. And then they dump all their freak out on you. And you're like, I did not ask for this.
Right.
And
Your boundaries. You're teaching the
boundaries.
boundaries. Yes.
And
Boundaries.
reconnecting with your own inner voice, because again, that
Mhm.
is comes back again, circling back around to marketing. If you aren't really aligned with a
Yeah.
message, it is not going to come through. Well, it'll come through as fragmented to others, and
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
will be muddy, and it'll just become part of the static that is much of social media. It is the
Yeah.
social media slop, if you will,
Yeah.
instead of the AI slop.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back around to something else that has come up many times in this conversation, and that is community. Not
Mhm.
just humanity, but community. You and I met as part of a community that
Mhm.
continues, even though that particular place
Physical
is no
space
longer
is
there. The physical
gone.
space is
Yeah.
gone, but
Mhm.
the emotional and heart space remains strong.
Mhm.
When you are, do you help people build membership communities,
It's not
or are
about
you
membership. What
okay?
I tell clients is like my job is to build. Well, I get to get. It's a lot easier for me now for you to understand what I actually say. Is like my job is to build you a fandom equivalent to K-pop Demon Hunters.
Ah.
I
Well,
used
there
to have
you
to
go.
say, yeah, my job is to build you a K-pop fandom, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I have to be like, "It's like Justin Bieber and this to combine together." Now I could just say like, my job is to build you a fandom equivalent to K-pop Demon Hunters, or Lego, Disney, etc. Right?
Hmm.
Multi-generational fandoms where people are like, you like Lego, I like Lego, let's be besties. Where like you're like on the goal for brands, because I specifically aim for 100-year brands, is like the goal is to where if you're like in the lifestyle oriented category, right? The goal is to where your brand name gets so much to where people like when they're saying on a dating profile, they say, I like Legos, Studio Ghibli, and X, right? Like these cultural pieces, right? Like that's the goal for it. And so, and like I have clients that are obviously like home based clients, like plumbers, etc. And they're like, well, I'm not trying to be the next Lego. And I was like, no, but like one of my clients is a home service company, and their whole ethos is like, we're not trying to sell you stuff. We're just trying to make sure that you have a good home and that you're taken care of. And so
Yeah.
they built their whole entire business model around that, right? And so what we get to do is just say, okay, cool. Well, then our job is within Austin that people know you as someone that they can trust and not being sold to. Like that's the fundamental language that we're trying to emit to it, right? And here's the whole entire form of expression that happens. And I love that you mentioned like people having a fragmented experience of another person. When a human is trying to understand another human, and why the relationships in the community that we're talking about lasted so long, is that in the physical interactions that we had with each other, we got to learn the essence of each other. And
Hmm.
so even as we evolve, because humans are constantly evolving, we still know the essence of that being. And so when we reconnect, it's like no time has passed because we always understood each other's essence. And we're just like, oh, cool. I love this new ray of rainbow that you're exposing, right? Because in every human, there is a light. And through our body, we express and we build a rainbow. And it's a lifetime rainbow. Think Oprah's version of a rainbow of 20,000 eras, right? Like, it shows up. So that's what we do. And communities like Orange Co-working, that it was, fostered that level of experience. And social media is technically a space that could foster that if people know how to do it correctly.
I never was much on X when it was still X. I understand that many people found those kind of communities where before in the before times,
Yeah, when
it
it was
was not
Twitter,
like
now
that
X.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
but it's more difficult to find the people. However, right now, I'm also seeing there still is a hunger for connecting in real life.
Yes.
And
More important than ever, everyone's wanting to connect in real life because as much as the digital world can do the things, um, being in a room watching someone's body language outside of tone, because text does not offer tone, so common threads can only do so much, right? Like there or video is so still very one way, right? Like the energy of people chit-chatting in a room, bouncing and vibing off of each other is still only in real life.
mhm.
Like as much as Zoom with the Zoom groups can do, it doesn't reflect that level of energy because being physically in a room with someone is a different experience than through a camera as much as we want to.
100%. I agree. On that no, I'm going to go ahead and kind of. Do you ever do in-person conferences or speaking or
So I do
group?
get invited to a lot of in-person conferences and speaking engagements over time. It's coming more online and more from offline to online. Love those. I love going back to speak at universities because I get the young ones and they come up to me afterwards with lots of questions and they don't know how to approach me. And I'm like, just have a chit chat with me. Feel free to ask all the 20 questions. And for those that are young and youthful and listening, if you do that, that will serve you very well when you go out and get a job as the networking piece of it. So I do a lot of those. And then I do have some in-person like meetings and stuff. It just really depends on the client. I have clients all around the world. So it depends on if they're in Austin or not. But it's always fun. Like I had one client that's based in New York, and we're constantly always chatting. And like we've worked together for 4 years, and she visited me for South. She visited South by during South by Southwest, and so I got to meet up and hang out with her, and it was so fun, just like hanging out in person and like having a meal or chatting over coffee. Like that was just like fun to like reconnect in person.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So yeah, so you are still doing some event work with South by Southwest?
I didn't do South by this year. I'm usually either on a panel or I am supporting a client that's part of an event or something. I'll
I
go.
see. Okay.
Yeah. I do not go for the fun, if you will. I'm way too much of an introvert for that.
Yeah, those kind of events are very challenging for introverts, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, Lauren, I will make sure how if somebody is interested in your services, how best I mean, obviously I'll have that information in the show
Mhm.
notes, but is there
Mhm.
anything that you want to add right now as to what would be the best way to contact you? Would you want them to go through LinkedIn or would you prefer that they go through your
Definitely
email or your
follow me
website?
on LinkedIn or YouTube if they want to like explore more of the deep dives of marketing and how it plants the seeds for societal shifts. And if they're itching to actually scale their brand, the clients that I work with these days are they're clients that want to build 100-year brand. And to all of our conversation up to this point, they want to do it with honoring themselves and
Mm.
also honoring the brand that they're creating and the people involved as well. And so if someone is interested in how do they build a culture, a system, and do marketing that reflects that whole entire experience, then they can definitely give me find me on my website and schedule a call and see.
What
Yeah.
what's your website again?
So the website is rxuconsulting.com. It goes to my stand store. They can always DM me on LinkedIn as well, if they have questions.
Okie doke.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I know that in the past you had a company called C3 Nami, so that one
Yes.
has become
Yeah,
RC.
in 10 years we started a C3 Nami as a full social media marketing agency, and we sunsetted that in about 2020. And then
Okay.
I shifted into my private practice where I was going in as a fractional CMO building teams, and now I just get to advise where I say go do, don't make me do it. Yeah.
You know what though? Sometimes it's that mentor, that advisor that is all the difference, because you're empowering people to do things that they honestly could do themselves without you, but they don't
Yeah.
know they can.
Well, the biggest thing that I do for my clients is learn to let go. So that stage of like going from the parent that is connected to the boob and then learning to guide and let go and scale, like that shift. Like I have clients that have built 20-year businesses, and I'm like, your business is a fully functioning adult that would be in college. Why are we micromanaging? Um,
Mm,
mm you can give opinions and ideas like I saw this, how can we incorporate that into our brand strategy versus saying how do I be the next Duolingo, let's follow Duolingo, like two totally different languages,
very different.
right?
Well, I'm glad you're there to interpret that for people. Roran, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I've had a great time
Yeah,
learning a lot more. And I think everybody who is going to listen to this, whether they have a business or not, will come away with some wonderful bit of wisdom. Thanks so
thank you
much.
so much for having me.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.